3/4 inch thick,
Yeah,
pure
her husband's
solid
very
wood.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah, he
been beaten up and what do you call it?
50.
Yeah, he's young 40s.
Good evening and welcome to the Finance and Advisory Board meeting of January 30th. Call the meeting to order at 7:10. Mike, you're up.
Okay, well, I'd like the chief and the lieutenant to join me to discuss this reserve fund transfer request. The chief and Carol and Don and the lieutenant met at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting and discussed this with the board. And the board voted to support the request. But I'll let the chief take over.
Well, you know, of course, I'm sure you're all aware, this is in light of Newtown, Connecticut. And we're concerned. We're concerned about a lot of things. We're concerned about security. We've been working hand in hand with the schools ever since to improve security across the boards. As a matter of fact, today we had a Code Blue drill at one of the schools, and we'll be conducting those. We have officers going in. One of the holes, I think, in our boat is we do not have an officer assigned specifically to the schools. And the problem for us is that we have 2 police officers. For example, this morning, we had alarm calls for this morning. We had a medical call. That takes both the cops are off the street. If something happened in our schools, we'd break free from those things, obviously, and we'd go to the schools, but it's downtime, you know? We're hopeful that we can go back to what we had in the past. We had a full-time school resource officer, which is a police officer who's attended resource training by the government, comes in and is trained and versed in resource. That means that he interacts with the kids in a positive, reaffirming way in which he's been trained. That's all I'm asking for. I'm asking for an officer to come in and be a school liaison officer. It's more of a security issue. This officer would be assigned to the schools on a daily basis. He's a part-time police officer. He's not a full-time officer. He receives absolutely no benefits. It's a reserve position. The officer would make $16.21 a day for 8 hours a day. The total per day would be $129.68. The price has gone down, so I talked to our Board of Selectmen, and we're down to 88 active school days left. And in order to put this officer in the schools, the total price would be a transfer of $11,411.84. And even that would be less if the money's not transferred tonight. It's an important position. It allows us to put an officer who's dedicated to school, who has a communication with the principals. It allows us to have close security. We're working to increase security in all the schools. We've got some work to do. We find that out every time we interact with the schools. This is not a permanent position. This position would end at the end of the year, and we'll reevaluate it at that time. But my concerns through intelligence and the things we're talking about in the police community is it's important at this junction to get security into that school, a little bit more security in the school.
Which school, I'm sorry?
All 3 schools. This officer would be...
One officer that's gonna
Yes.
patrol 3 schools?
All 3 schools. And the idea is that if anything were to happen, God forbid, that officer would be there, dedicated, he'd be at one of the 3 schools, and he'd be able to respond immediately. He'll also deal with all issues involving the schools. He won't be pulled out to handle situations in the field. He'll
And up
be in the
until
schools.
now, has there ever been an incident that they've been called?
Oh, we've had officers in the schools. We had a situation, we had a school resource officer in which a hate crime was gonna occur. Thank you for bringing that up. And the intelligence came to the officer that this hate crime was gonna occur. It was happening somebody came to him and said, look, this is gonna happen. And because he was able to get in the middle of these 2 groups, he stopped that situation. So that's the thing that's missing. It's not about people coming into the school. It's about us having a presence and us having that kid who may be a victim, who knows something's gonna happen. If you look at the majority of the things that happen in school, they're internal. They're kids who say to their friends, I'm gonna do a Columbine on the school. That, nobody talks to the teachers, maybe they talk to a police officer and say, I heard this, so we can interact and we can stop that if it's being planned. So it's an intelligence unit too, in that the teachers hear things, the kids hear things, and sometimes they don't talk to other people for whatever reason. This would be a filter to help us do that too. like I said, this is not a cure, this is a Band-Aid. And that's all we're trying to do, put a Band-Aid on it at this juncture in time. This is a very sensitive area right now, if you think about it, for reasons I don't want to publicly articulate. But I think it's important. It's a part-time office, it's not a full-time position. We're gonna fill this position 5 days a week. The guy or gal who will be there will not be the same officer. And the reason for that is it would be a violation of some contractual issues we have. But we'll try to find a couple of officers we can put there on a permanent basis. So, like I said, I said to the lieutenant, this is a 50-50 proposition. They're gonna say yea and nay. But in my thought process, I've been a police officer almost 40 years. Right now, this is probably one of the most important things I'm coming before this body of, before I went to the Board of Selectmen, I laid out the reasons for this. The Board of Selectmen supported it, Michael supported it, and I think it's one of the few things that, in my tenure here, this is a very important issue.
I guess that would be one of the first questions is if it's not gonna be the same officer, is that gonna be problematic?
No. All our officers are trained the same way. All officers are equipped the same way. Every cruise is identical. So when we assign an officer at school, it's the same. And if we do what I'm planning, I'm hoping to be able to do maybe 2 guys, maybe 3. But those people will interact and have intelligence, and there'll be reports being funneled back to Lieutenant Thompson and Lieutenant Cudmore. So those are the guys who are on days. Those are the guys who have the information. And like I said, this is a Band-Aid, and this is a security position. A security position. That's what we're looking at it as.
I have a few questions. Mike, what was the Board of Selectmen vote?
It was unanimous. I don't know if all 5 were there, but,
I think it was 4-1.
Mr.
oh,
Trapani.
I'm sorry.
I
It was?
believe
Was it
4-1.
that? What?
Okay, has, the school committee responded at all to this? Yeah.
Oh,
was
okay,
4-1.
sorry.
Has the school committee
Offered an opinion?
offered an opinion of any kind on
I've
this?
been working with Superintendent Carol Jacobs, and she's very much in support of it. She was there the night I
Yeah, but
spoke to the board.
that's the superintendent, not the school committee.
Well,
I'm just curious, it's not a,
I'm sure if there was a concern, she would have raised it. I saw her today. I told her I'd be here tonight, and she wished me luck, and she said she was hopeful that it would pass. So, I mean, I don't think there's a concern at all with the school committee. In fact, well, individual members are on the safety committee I'm a member of, and they've expressed their concern and their interest in this position being put in the schools.
So,
oh, I have one more. And, is anyone budgeting this for next year, or is that,
No, the draft budget was submitted before this was proposed.
Mhm.
So we
So
have to address it during the. budget
neither police
negotiation.
nor school have got it in
I
theirs?
don't know what the
Well,
schools
it
have
wouldn't
done,
be,
but
it
I'm
wouldn't
telling
be
you,
in
we
the
have
school,
not.
I would think. It would be
You
in the
never know.
police budget. but-
Okay.
Well, I think one of the key
We
things
have
the
not.
chief was talking about being a Band-Aid on a serious situation. I think we're all sensitized to what happened in Connecticut, and certainly, they always prey on the weak and the defenseless when you have things like that happen. And I know we talk about Georgetown needing better schools, we need a new school. I think something like this also takes a leadership role in addressing a problem very quickly. And it's a Band-Aid, like you said, until you can reevaluate it later on down the line. And personally, I think for the few $1,000s this costs, which is very little, I think it's a good thing to do for our community, keep our kids safe, and give you time to reevaluate this thing and look at it however many months from now, or Don, or whoever, and reevaluate at that time. But I applaud that effort.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
Nazreen, you had a question?
so.
And I normally don't like to spend money, I can tell you.
This is
So,
true.
and
Is it?
I forget, how many reserve police officers are there in Georgetown currently, and how many are actively serving? 'Cause I'm-
Yeah, would you take that, Lieutenant?
We have 11 full-time officers and 15 part-time officers. And the 15 part-time officers are scheduled throughout our full-time schedule to complement the police department, as well as fill in for vacation, sick, and other vacancies. So the reserve officer contingency would fill in for this particular position. It's more of a scheduling issue than it is a manpower issue. Mike can attest, we came before the board this year. We were down to 10 reserves due to attrition, and we hired 5 this year because we need 15 to run the department. appropriately to cover all of the shifts. So we do have more officers to pull from to fill a shift like this, because this would add to our scheduling complement.
Because what I do see happening, and I could be wrong, is that after the school year is over and this, reserve position is no longer there, people would now say, well, we need a full-time officer there. And then, how does that play out in the budget?
Well, that actually will be up to management and to us with the Board of Selectmen again and coming back. That decision would be made at this table and out with the Board of Selectmen through the normal budgeting process.
Prior to 2009, the position was full-time.
Prior to 2009.
Yes.
There was a police officer
There
that
was
was
a school resource
assigned
officer full-time
full-time.
for 3 years, due to a federal grant that I wrote. There was a fourth-year retention, which we had to pay in full out of the budget. Fiscal year 2009 was a tough year for Georgetown.
That's when we
And
started cutting
we
back,
had, we had some issues, and in December, the position that went was that.
And it was all positive. And this individual, the two individuals who were in those positions still maintain contact with kids who were in school. I happened to be at the Pearly School when a team of kids were going by with now Detective Rod, and they all stopped and talked to me. And that's heartening when you see young men and women approaching an officer in a very positive light. So, it's easy for us to sit here and talk about it, but if you think about this, every child in Georgetown knew a police officer. Every child. They knew a police officer they could approach, talk to. And we know, and you know, that there are people out there who are victims, and it's in a vacuum, and we don't know what's happening at home. But maybe if there's that safe environment when a child can go to a police officer that they feel safe around and say, I'm a victim here. That's why the school resource officer is good. He also taught classes in the schools in conjunction with the schools. So, you talk about a positive effect because, the police aren't always considered a positive force in the community.
Well,
So that was a good thing.
One
so.
last question. Would this officer be there at the busy times, which is at school drop-off in the morning?
He'd be there all day long. He'd be there at 7 o'clock in the morning and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. His job would be that'd be his or her job.
And
It-
I get.
It would have to be rotating because
Right,
of the
that's
three
what I get what
buildings
you're saying. So
and-
then he's only in one place
at one time.
at
Oh,
a
I see
time.
what you're saying. He
So
can't,
then, is he gonna be rotated so that people don't necessarily know the schedule, or is
Oh,
he gonna be rotated?
it would have to be random. You would
And
not
so
post that
he
particular
he
schedule.
can't always be
No.
in all three places at one
It's not
time,
logical.
at the time.
but
See,
can I
my-
address that? He would be free to respond. Our response time from the police department, without rushing, is 2.5 minutes to Pearlie. It's less than 2 minutes it's less than 2 minutes to Pearlie, 2.5 minutes to Pembroke, less than 2 minutes to the high school. All right, that officer would never be more than moments away from any of the schools. If he's at the high school, he's seconds away from the Pearlie. If he's at Pembroke, he's a little farther from the others. But he would be dedicated to the security and safety of those kids in that school system.
There's one other thing too, Nazarene and Chief, that because you see Congress has been addressing this and talking about it, we might very well see funding coming at the federal level down to either pay for or help pay for that, because it's a pretty sensitive subject in Washington D.C. right now. And it may be very well this Band-Aid that the chief is talking about, even though it may not be long-term funding, maybe by the time that this discussion is being held for the next time, there might very well be, just like TARP funds were available, there might be funding from the federal government to help offset that to a community that is taking those steps, or a way that you can apply for that kind of money from the federal government. Right now, it's too soon, and there's too much politicking going on, but they will work it out back there, and I think that's a plus side for us, is that there probably will be something coming down, either in a mandate or some type of funding to help communities that have taken that step, which you're proposing.
We hope so. So I know, talk about the grants we've put in.
Each year, obviously, I apply for every Department of Justice grant there is on the federal level. We have not been successful in the last 4 years with any type of federal grant through the Department of Justice, because the grants not only became more competitive, but they became specifically geared towards your stabilization fund, your per capita income, your population, and your crime rates. So Georgetown was seen in a very positive light on paper when we applied for federal grants, and we were just denied one in September, the final one that I wrote. with regard to the SRO, the school resource officer grant, a number of years ago, that we were one of only 5 communities that got the SRO grant back when I wrote the original grant, for $125,000. And partly because we were, an individual school district, and we were able to correlate some activity within the district and the police activity and our proposal to, take corrective action. So that's why I believe we were successful with that grant at that time. I do agree with the colonel that I think that, every one of these incidents change policing, and they change the dynamic of what we do from a societal end. And we're in for some more change, just like when Columbine occurred. The school has taken a very proactive approach to security. They've enhanced their video systems. They've enhanced some policy, and our hope is just to continue to help them enhance on the law enforcement end as a resource.
Which is one
That's
of the
the plan.
reasons I referred
Not
this as a
necessarily plan
Band-Aid.
security, but as a resource.
We got a couple more questions, and we got a full agenda ahead of
Okay,
us.
sure.
Okay, I guess it's more of a comment than a question. When I see 2 or 3 different people in 3 different schools, I really wonder how effective it would be. I mean, they obviously can't be everywhere. And if you're setting up relationships with children, with anyone really,
But
that
that's
having
all
2
we're
or
looking-
3 people doing
we're not
it
looking to do that.
dilutes it, as
I
far
thought
as
I
I'm
explained in the
concerned.
beginning, Jim, we're not looking to do that. We're looking to put a security officer in the schools. This is not about a school resource officer. This is about security. There's a big difference.
But you won't be at every school. I mean, I thought part of the rationale was you're looking to talk to kids, and you didn't think that outside
It will
was a
be
problem.
part of it, but I will tell you unequivocally, the only reason for this officer, the primary reason will be security. It won't be about interacting with the kids in a positive fashion. That will hopefully come off, but we're looking to secure those schools, put an officer who's dedicated.
No, I
8 hours,
understand
I hope you do. I'm saying that right now, an officer can be tied up, 2 cops can be locked down and tied up somewhere when they're needed at the school. Okay, we gotta have cops in court, cops at the drug lab.
Right.
And this school's, in the town's not covered as well as it should be. This guy or gal is dedicated to security of those schools, if needed. It's a safety thing. I just wanna make it clear. This is not a school resource officer. This
Yeah,
is a
and,
school
and
liaison
again,
officer.
again, my problem is that you know very well when we get to next budget season, you will want to have an officer there. I mean, I can't imagine that it won't. And I guess my question to you is, if you do, and if you had that money available to you, is that what you would use it for? If we said to you, okay, you can have another police officer, is that your primary use for a police officer?
No,
Okay.
no, but I'm not talking about the next budget. I'm talking about today, and I'm talking about the next few months. And I'm
Yeah,
talking
but-
about a security issue that
No, I
I'm very
know.
concerned about.
But
So
the
you
next
know.
couple of months,
Yeah.
it's the next couple of months. What about, if it's that important, why not next year as well?
I want it next year.
Oh,
Okay.
But
okay.
you asked me
all
a
right,
question,
fine.
I gave you
I
an
don't,
honest
yeah.
answer,
Okay.
you know?
Okay.
One thing, Robin, if you don't mind, I've just, off of that, can we get for the meeting on the 9th, what the cost would be for a school resource and security, or whatever you're looking
It's already
for?
done.
It's already
It's already
done?
But-
It's
but-
not in tonight's budget, correct, Mike?
No,
Correct.
because,
Okay, so
Because
we'll
I
get
think
that
it
as
was
an
a-
addendum on the 9th?
that's correct. I think it was important to take, where we are right now, moving forward to that February 9th date. So we were hoping that encapsulating what's occurred. We had another issue relative to crossing guard before the Board of Selectmen, which we did solve without asking for funding with that. We were able to solve that problem. I think this sets unto itself. I think, the chief mentions moving us until June. I think that we have to look at the plan in total for fiscal year 2014 in total.
Okay.
Not just this position, like Mr. Lacy said, what you're gonna do with that position. There'll be scheduling changes. There are changes afoot within the police department, so I think you have to look at the whole picture versus just presenting tonight what you wanna do in June. I think there's some
Okay.
shifting going on, so.
Can we get that ahead of time, so we can put it in the book, so we can see it before the 9th?
Sure.
Is that possible?
Tomorrow.
You guys work it out, and then Mike will work it out with
Let's
us.
Take care of it.
Robin has another question.
Mike, are there any other potential funds that are gonna need to come out of the reserve fund? Cause this is gonna bring it down to 42.
That's right.
We're still 5 months out. Well, sometimes you have an idea if legal's gonna hit, or if insurance, or,
Everything's right on target right now. I'm not looking at any, and I'm not anticipating a big, free cash this year because we've been,
So tight.
cutting it back
Right.
Yeah.
every year.
But we still got 6 more weeks of winter, right? Snow and ice could
Yeah, at
probably.
least.
Well, I think,
Did
well,
the,
no, he's saying no new
Up
free
to Tony
cash. I
Phil,
think we've
see
got
his
free
shadow?
cash.
No, that's tomorrow, or
No,
Saturday.
snow, yeah, snow and ice would be actually, we could do that out of free cash. The reserve fund at least would be for lawyer costs and things like that.
Right.
All right.
So, because you can cover this free cash, you can cover the snow costs out of some other funding. But you
Right.
can't cover legal fees or other things out of anything except for the reserve fund at this time, so. Okay.
So at this point, you're not,
I don't anticipate,
it's a crystal ball, I know that,
Yeah.
but sometimes you have an idea of, you
If there's
know,
big lawsuits or something coming down the
yeah,
pipe.
or an unemployment case or something, that's,
no, it's going okay, but, it's way too early to tell.
yeah,
Yeah, we still have 6 months left.
yeah.
Reggie, you have any questions?
I kind of tend to think a little bit like Jim on this, on the effectiveness. I just find it very difficult to comprehend that one police officer servicing 3 schools, would in fact be that effective. The police station is, 30 seconds away from all of those buildings versus that of a policeman being in the building at the time and going to Pearlie or going to Pembroke. And I just have some reservations about the effectiveness of that. And I would really, have some reservations about doing this on a full-time basis for next year.
On that
On
note,
on that scope.
is there any way, as you're getting reports without breaking any, or giving any proprietary information or anything like that, is there any way at the end of this that you could actually, even just between now and over the course of the next few weeks, give some sort of a report or analysis of how this officer, or how this position reacted and time-wise as opposed to if it wasn't there?
Sure.
I don't know what you're collecting for a report.
Response times, are you looking for
Response time
specific-
and the type of incident without getting particular, like hate crime is kind of general, bullying, I don't know what other kind of things that,
We log in every call that officer handles.
right, no,
everything.
but I don't want you guys breaking any,
No,
giving any
no.
information out, but some,
And I think it's important, and you hit on a good topic, that looking at response times are generic. I think that, it's all call specific and location specific. It would be tough to say that on any given time, at any given day, where police are located to respond to a call. And if we look at generalities and what calls we've handled at the high school or the middle schools in common, and try to attempt to create a report, yes. I mean, we
you
can
understand what
certainly
I'm
do that.
asking for, some sort of an analysis,
But-
just
but
to,
I just
to show the
caution-
effectiveness of it.
Yeah, I would caution also too, I know that I myself did I believe it's a 30-page research paper on our SRO program for the National FBI Academy. I can share that. It was data-driven concerning prior to the SRO program, after the SRO program, and then while it was in play.
That would be
you-
very-
Yes, I would like to see that.
That would be very
It shows-
interesting.
It shows calls, it's specific to presentation by the chief's office, the superintendent, myself as the facilitator of the SR program prior to us having it. So, I can share that with you, and then get you data concerning, because we have had an SLO program. The school, we partially funded it 1 year, the school funded it in total. The previous year, we went 1 year without it. So, there is a roller coaster effect with it.
That'd
But
be
again,
interesting.
it's all based on what happens in society. We can have a quiet year, we can have a busy year.
True. And I know we gotta get off the subject, but just for Jim and Reggie, one thing just to remember, I was in the military for a long time, and we have large munition storage facilities, particularly in the nuclear weapons area, and all those silos, and we don't have a guy at every one of them, but what we do have is random patrols that are unannounced, that are roaming. The police officer kind of serves the same way. He's between the 3 schools, so when someone is scoping out something, they want always to prey on the weak and the innocent. And so what you're doing, I think, is they're rolling the dice that there's not an officer there, or they're gonna pick the right time. And quite frankly, you move on to other targets that are less vulnerable. It's the same way whenever we guard large areas. We don't have we don't have a security policeman on every silo, but they are random patrols, and they could show up at any time. You don't know, it's not announced. And it's kind of the same with the school. And I think it's one officer serves that purpose between the three schools, that he's always somewhere around there. So if you're planning some mischief, unless you know where he is, and the chief has already said that it was going to be a random schedule, you know, you're really rolling the dice that you're not going to do something and you're going to have an armed officer there. I think you'd move on to another community if you're going to do mischief.
Well, I think too, and I know you're under
I'm just looking
time
at the time,
constraints, Chairman, but, you know, that's the foundation of American policing. It's all random. We have to determine whether we're doing enough to ensure safety. It comes down to just that question. And it is a weakness in our system. We're trying to fill that weakness. The same with our crossing guard program. So, statistically speaking, I mean, I can give you the data. And there's one thing you cannot measure, though. You cannot measure the deterrent effect of having a police officer present. It's the old, you know, proverbial, when there's a police vehicle in the area, no one does anything wrong. But after we leave, you know,
Well,
things happen.
even
so-
the crime rate in New York, people applaud the crime rate going down in New York, and the reason it went down in New York
Presence.
was because they put more cops out on the street.
Presence.
It doesn't mean there's a cop on every block, but they were always roaming around. So when you're doing mischief, you never knew if the cop was around the corner eating a donut or where he was. And that, well, I mean, just, you know,
Pupsy donuts.
you know, whatever
No, we
he's
eat
doing.
bagels today, not
Oh,
donuts.
But you know what
Modern
I'm
office
saying is
bagels.
that, you
I
know,
couldn't agree with you more.
that
I
it-
couldn't
that
agree with
he
you more.
may be somewhere in here. Should we move
Okay.
on to the easier part?
All right.
We beat it to
Yeah,
death.
we're on to
Quick,
food.
quick question,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
quick question, the description for additional funding is to reestablish the school liaison officer program. Is that the way we wanna do the motion, or do you want it to be for security?
It's a school liaison officer, and that's the title, that's what we've always used.
Okay.
After we left resource officer, we went to liaison, because it's a person who works with the schools.
Okay, just wanna make sure, because you were saying from the security point, I wanna make sure that the motion is done correctly.
That's my motive, is security. My motive is
Okay.
to secure, make the schools secure.
Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion to move from the reserve fund the amount of $11,412 to line item 12111 police salaries for the purpose of reestablishing the school liaison program.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to move $11,412 from reserve fund to police salaries. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Abstain?
Yeah.
Okay. And the motion carries.
Thank
Not a big fan, but
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm not
we
either.
I think-
will
think
go
is-
with it. For
I
now.
think, as you said, Donnie, things are data-driven, and I think that's
Yeah, I would love to
really
see that
at this-
report.
At this
And I
point
think,
now.
you know, we'll
Thank
focus around
Thank you.
fiscal year 2014, because I think you have to look at it in total as opposed to this approach.
Yeah, I think we'll sleep better at night knowing that we have a presence here. Thank you, thank you all. That's good.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you guys on the 9th.
Yes.
Bring bagels.
How about donuts?
Well, actually, should we have them bring lunch?
Actually, I'd rather you brought donuts.
Who was supposed to bring candy tonight? Somebody was supposed to.
You said he was showing up with
Oh,
a
I
tan.
forgot it.
Oh, Chuck. God.
I'll bring you some Arizona rock candy next
I was
time.
gonna say, he's telling us
Like a
you're
black
showing up
pepper
with a tan,
thing.
you've been in Arizona,
Cheesy at best.
that's the penalty, bringing candy. All right. And as we finish this
I could have
signing
brought
up,
like coldies or something, you know.
I know.
Coldy.
Did you record my reluctant yes on that?
No.
No, what, a yes is a yes.
The yes is
Yes
yes.
is
I
yes.
know,
And I
I know,
think
I hear you.
Reluctant
There's no
or
box for
not.
reluctant.
No,
yes.
I know,
it'll
I
be
hear
right.
you.
I think it'll be interesting to get the
Gonna
data
sign?
and then
No.
to do more, and if you have anything you can share with us between now and the 9th, just so we can have it in the book so people
Well, you
can
don't
have a
have to
chance to look
sign
at it.
That doesn't mean you agree with
be
it.
able to
It
get
just
it
means
to
that
you.
you're here.
I just meant they were here.
Week, Wednesday at the latest.
Oh,
then.
that's, yeah. The meeting's couple weeks out anyway, so.
You know, I've
Yeah,
been
That's
amazed.
your
how
lawyer's
many people
signature.
are touched by that, you know,
Thank you. Oh, this goes around to Mike.
thing.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
back that way.
Back this way.
All righty.
February 9th, we're meeting with the police.
February 9th is the Saturday meeting here. Remember the full day Saturday, so.
February.
All right.
Okay.
Now, is there any other business you want to take care of before, or how do you want to approach now?
No, what I'd
What'll
like
be
to
next?
do is make an opening statement,
Mhm.
review the preliminary cherry sheet data that has been released by the state, and then just give you a tour of the budget book. There's different formatting this year, and being a transition year, it's gonna take a little getting used to, because we're gonna have the old stuff and the new stuff.
Old stuff meaning from Excel and the new stuff in.
So you go right
Munis?
off of the system.
No, it's still in Excel, but we're using, well, it will all become evident
all right.
in a few minutes. Tonight, in accordance with the Georgetown bylaws, Article 3, Section 63-11, I am submitting this estimate of expenses and income of the town's departments for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2013. In the past, departments were asked to submit two budgets, a level funded budget and a level service budget. This year's submission is what I would call a hybrid level services budget, which is defined as follows. The amount of the same appropriations as contained in the operating budget authorized for the previous year, reduced and increased, as the case may be, by debt service, contracts, and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law, and reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the operating budget. For the purpose of this paragraph, one-time expenditures shall be appropriations not likely to recur in the succeeding budget as determined by the Finance and Advisory Board. For all departments, this means no increases in personnel levels from the levels approved in the FY13 budget. Based on those personnel levels, town department salary lines were increased by 2.5% for both union and non-union employees, plus any additional contractual obligations. In this budget tonight, school department salary line items will be dictated by the various collective bargaining agreements in place. However, they're not available in this budget at this time.
Okay.
Any department that has identified a needed expansion or addition of services was encouraged and is encouraged to make a case for that increase in a separate submittal. You will find that the format of the departmental budget transmittal form has been changed in anticipation of a major update in the town's chart of accounts scheduled for this spring. This is why we didn't do the Munis for the software for this budget. When I arranged for training to get everybody to be able to submit to the Munis system, our chart of accounts is so antiquated, we couldn't do it. We have not updated our chart of accounts in 30 years, maybe.
Nice. Is it updating to objects and orgs?
Yes.
Okay.
This update will bring us in line with the Department of Revenue Administration's Uniform Massachusetts Accounting System, UMass, and allow us to better analyze and report our financial data.
That's a wonderful thing.
And just before you go to page 2, Mike gave out handouts for page 2, so if you haven't already taken it out of your book, please do so and insert the new handout.
You got a new handout with,
No, I switched hers.
You switched
oh, you
it?
switched yours.
The benefit
You
of
come late and you get
benefit coming in last. Also different this year, you will find separate budgets for each non-general fund, which includes revolving funds, grants, and special revenue funds. In the past, the Finance Committee has not received annual budget information in an integrated format for the non-general fund funds of the school and the town departments. the non-general fund budgets indicate the purpose of the fund and estimated revenues and expenditures. By including these non-general fund budgets, the full cost of services provided will be better understood by the board and the taxpayers. As far as revenues are concerned, as in past budgets, at this time of the year, the status of local aid to the towns is a very big unknown. The governor's budget, House 1, has been released and gives us a very preliminary idea of the eventual level of revenue the town might expect to receive. The governor's budget provides a very small increase in Chapter 70 school funding to the amount of $37,700, which is less than 0.75%. Unrestricted general government aid or local town aid has a new twist this year. They have a new formula-driven aid amount in addition to the unrestricted governmental aid. This is based on a community's wealth and income factors, and in this initial budget will provide an additional $28,753, or an increase of 4.7%. There's a big difference between the school gets the school aid is totals $6 million.
Right.
The town aid totals $600,000. It's a tenth of it. So a similar amount increase will be obviously a much larger percentage. And we'll look at this next, but in total, cherry sheet receipts are up $86,926 from last year. And there is also good news to report regarding the cherry sheet charges. The state government giveth and the state government taketh away. And we just hope that the takeaways are less than the giveaways. And in this case, the charges are actually $34,940 lower than they were last year. This has pretty much, well, and I'll talk about that in a minute, where it came from. So if you add the two together, we have a net change to the positive of $121,866. That's encouraging. But as you well know, this is, as I said, very preliminary. There'll be two more budgets that come out, the House budget and Senate budget. And the governor's budget usually has very little remaining once the other two bodies get done with it. So you're not going to be able to recognize the governor's budget. But this is the best information we have at the time. On the expense side of the ledger, we're going to be looking at a 10% increase in the pension line item. This will mean an increase in $114,994. So there goes most of the 121 to the good.
Bye-bye.
But at least we're still
It's
on
an
the,
annual happening, isn't it?
on the black side. As I stated earlier, town employee salaries are scheduled to increase 2.5% based on union contracts and similar increases for non-union personnel. That works out to an overall increase of $77,625. As I stated earlier, the school department wage increases will vary based on the different union contracts, but they're not available at this time. Last year's areas of concern, such as unemployment insurance, workers' comp, and property and liability insurance are expected to moderate this year. We took our big hits last year, and unfortunately, they're gonna stay with us for a number of years because the insurances are especially, the workers' comp and the property and liability are experience-based. So, our experience modification rate will stay high for another 2 years. As long as we're not faced with any major layoffs, our unemployment insurance, it's not insurance because towns pay dollar
Yeah,
for
we're
dollar.
self-funding, right.
So we pay 100%. It's self-insured. But I can say that through the first 6 months, we're ahead of the game from last year by a good amount, by a comfortable amount. The big question that's always asked, what about the debt service? Has it gone down? Well, yes, it has gone down. And the principal has gone down over $100,000 in annual payment. But we're going to start to see interest charges kicking in for the school.
Right.
So you'll see a $50,000 addition in the interest line item for debt service in anticipation of having to pay some interest on borrowings for the school project. But there is a net change of $21,880 to the good over last year. We also are anticipating savings due to the completion of the town's ESCO performance contract. We just had our final walkthrough just last week. So it went very well. We have a punch list the contractor is working on, mostly lighting issues in some of the schools, but all the big work, the boilers, you see the very large cooling tower out in the parking lot here. It's all hooked up and ready to go. We just can't test it until we get some hot weather. So that will remain an open item, and we have plenty of money in retainage in that project. It was $2.2 million. We retained 10% until everything's complete, satisfactory, and it went very well. I think the school is very pleased with it. I am very pleased with it, and the company ABM was very accommodating and worked with us real well. In conclusion, due to the nature of the Massachusetts legislative process, this budget document remains a work in progress and will probably remain so right up until the annual town meeting in May. Current FY13 revenues on the state level are still lagging behind projections, and the FY14 revenues in the governor's budget, H1, are based on the assumptions of a large increase in the state's income tax rate. With this in mind, local budget makers will once again be facing a lot of unknowns. Now, if you want to turn to these two sheets, I think they were passed out to you at the start of the meeting. These are the numbers that come directly from Department of Revenue Administration. I added the additional 2 columns to the right just to give you something to compare it and analyze with. But as you see, under Education, Chapter 70, a very small increase. And then some other smaller revenues, the charter tuition reimbursement dropped slightly, school choice, school lunch dropped. That's of our own device, because we just don't have that many people participating in school lunch. And the school choice receiving tuition did go up slightly. The second section is the general unrestricted aid. As you see, there's that new line item for annual formula local aid. And the veterans benefits and the exemptions for vets, blind, and surviving spouse and elderly, although it's not a huge dollar amount, it is a huge, as you can see, a huge percentage amount of increase. Veterans benefit went up 25%, and the exemptions went up 47%. Still, the grand total is only $16,000 in extra funding. So, as I stated in my introductory remarks, the estimated receipts are up 86,926, or a total of 1.4%. The second page is the charges, and if you go down to the bottom line, you'll see where we laid out the best. And this all has to do with the charter school sending tuition and the Essex County Tech sending tuition. Between the two of them, our expenses went down by $67,000 for the year. And even though we're still paying out $385,841, that's a almost $35,000 decrease from the previous year.
Where do we send kids to charter schools? Where is the charter schools? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Oh, and before I move on to the budget book, I know it's always on the back of your mind where
Free cash.
where we sit as far as free cash is concerned and our stabilization and capital funds. And this is a update as of
Yes.
We do enjoy
up
So we have
up
560
to the minute.
left.
This shows all the expenses, all the uses we for free cash at the fall town meeting. We spent or raised and appropriated $735,000, but we had an all-time high of almost $3 million in free cash, so we still have $560,784. And even if we have, a really nasty winter and use another 300,000 of that, we still have, $250,000 left in free cash.
Right, and that 250 for the special education, maybe, money's maybe coming back.
Probably not.
Which
I
would
just,
be-
when the school comes to the finance committee on the 9th, I had a conversation with Carol
Oh,
and
okay.
Joan.
Okay,
You don't get nearly as much money back out of that reimbursement. It's hard to explain, but you don't get much money back. I'd be surprised if we get much more than $50,000 or $60,000 out of
right,
it.
because the 250, just so everybody remembers, was 250 was moved to the special education because they didn't know the true cost, what it was gonna be.
Right, and they do know now.
They do know now?
Yes.
Okay,
So I asked them to bring us some
oh, good,
information about that.
50,000 is 50,000.
Yeah, but those kids are still in special needs programs, so that has to be put towards next year's.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
So if you want to turn to the budget book now, and let's see, if you just they're all going to be in the same format, but if, say we're looking at the same pages. Turn to tab 8, which is the Council on Aging budget. These titles coincide with the UMass chart of accounts. I didn't want to confuse the issue by putting new numbers in here that we're not going to use right now.
So is the terminology the same too on those?
No, it's not. And I was thinking about this earlier today. It would probably be beneficial if I sent you out the packet that I sent to the department heads that describe what goes in these categories, because they are, in some cases, overly general. But there are, you break them down even further. You can break them down further, but for this exercise, I thought these main headings were probably as far down as we needed to drill in at least now. And when we roll this up, you're going to have basically 2 line items, which for most part, that's the way we've done it in the past when we summarize. But you'll be seeing personnel services total and purchase of services total. This is how the rest of the
The world doesn't.
state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts does it.
Okay.
So that'll roll up underneath tab 3 where you have the comparison.
Yes,
That's where we're rolling up to. Okay.
yeah. Actually, it'll roll up twice. We roll up.
Oh, I see, yeah.
We're gonna roll it up in there's a detail expense, but then there's a summary, which you get one line. You end up with one line item for each department on the summary, and 2 in the detail.
Right, so when we vote, we're gonna be voting on the 2-line budget as opposed to 1? Or it's still yet for a discussion?
Yeah, I think we've always, correct me if I'm wrong, have we
We voted on the detail.
voted on detail? Okay,
Yeah.
then you'll be
But, right,
voting on.
but the detail was even more than just the 2 lines on some of the budgets.
It was, but a lot of those went away.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll explain some of the changes and anomalies in that. So every department has this same submittal form, this same spreadsheet, and they also have the same personnel detail, which is what we had last year. This is not new. It gives all the positions, their hours, FTEs, and salaries, wages. And then I asked, and then this is the real new one, on the 3rd page of the Council on Aging. This is they have a non-general fund, and it's to support the Council on Aging programs and services, and there's a fund description of what it can be used for. And then, as best they could come up with, and that's why I asked to look at this, because they have very good data at Council on Aging, so you can see what has happened in those revolving funds over the last 3 years. What has the line, the general expenditures, and how much revenue that came in as well. So some departments, the police have 4 or 5 of these. They have, and the Conservation Commission has several. So you're going to see this show up in each department, and you'll have it in front of you, and you can question the department heads on their use.
on these, can you just walk us through this? Because the amount of the revolving fund is not on here.
No, it's not.
Of what, you know,
The limit.
the limit.
Well, okay, actually, this one happens to be a grant. It's not a revolving fund.
Okay,
So she used the grant amount in the fund balance. That's her grant amount. She basically spends it down every year, so there's not much carryover.
so that's the fund balance, so she has no, so then off of the 9996, you take out the 3480, the 1500, the six, you take all the rest of those out?
Yes,
Okay,
this one gets spent down. And like I said, this is a grant. Some of the others. This is going to be, for instance, if you go to the next tab 9 and towards the back.
Oh, yeah, this would be the ambulance.
Fund.
Let's see.
Gives you the,
Right.
I guess I'm just having a hard time following this, Mike, and
Yeah.
The
Is
way
the
it's set
proposed
up.
budget the limit? Like on the ambulance fund?
on the ambulance fund, no, it's not, because they're,
What's the limit?
they're $149,000.
That's right.
And we've had conversations with I think we talked about this in the fall with DOR, and we're going to need to move this to a enterprise fund.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the 149,000, we're spending more than that.
Yeah, if the expenses to date are 138.
Yeah, and we're only allowed to, the state law, when you set up a revolving fund, you're only allowed to spend 1% of the town revenues.
Right.
So, we get $14 million in tax revenues, so.
Oh, is that what it's just based on?
Yeah.
Property tax revenue? Ah, okay.
So 1.4 million or
Yeah, yeah.
149,000.
where did this form come from, Mike? Is this one you made up, or is this something that came from the DOR?
I borrowed it from another community
Okay,
that was having major problems with their revolving funds. And this is what their consultant,
just in my simplistic additional adding up and down mind, the columns
It
are,
is a little
the
confusing.
columns are
yeah.
confusing.
Yeah.
Is there another way
Well,
can we
we'll-
adjust?
well, yeah, we'll work it before the end of the process, and
Okay,
it's our first
it's a first pass, right? I mean,
pass at it.
it's absolutely. I think it's wonderful. I think
I mean, it's exactly what
stuff we've
Andy's
never
been
seen.
asking
Yeah, it's
for.
exactly what we need. I think just for a simplistic way of viewing it, as opposed to adding up and down to see where the numbers.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we'll tweak it.
okay. No, but it's great because it gives. I love the fact fund name, the type of fund, the fund manager. It's great.
Well, and it's really interesting how many there are.
Way too many.
Robin does not like revolving funds.
Well,
I
neither
don't.
does Mary.
Must be the
That'd be great. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really
So the other segments of each individual department budget, I've asked them to include, challenges and accomplishments for this year and goals for the coming fiscal year as well. So you'll see that in each department budget.
Oh, that's new, isn't it? I didn't remember.
Actually, it was in
Done
there.
stuff before like that.
It was in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We
Really?
just didn't highlight it too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I asked them to include, because we did this 2 years ago with mission statements, and I
Yeah.
asked them, I said, none of your missions have changed in the last 2 years, you know, and some of them included them and some of them didn't. So, before the process is over, and I told them to concentrate on the dollar figures first.
Right, right, yeah,
Yeah.
first, right,
But
yeah.
they'll be hopefully, having their goals and objectives and mission statements by next Friday, a week from Saturday. So,
And anything that they have ahead of time that you can email us just so we can print them out, so we can review,
yes,
to help keep the meeting moving along, so we're not spending a lot of time reading
right.
what they're giving us.
So, then I'd just like to go through, point out some changes and anomalies due to those changes in the details and in the summaries, summary budgets. Revenue details, there's no changes there. It's all pretty much in the expenses.
Where are you, Mike?
Well, if you go to, you have a summary,
Tab 3?
and then you have a,
we're-
yeah,
yeah, we're
tab
tab
3.
Yeah,
Okay.
And there's a summary detail, a summary, budget summary is the first page.
right,
Revenue detail is the second page. And then the last 5 pages are the expense detail,
That's rolling up from,
rolling up from the department submittal form.
okay, so this is still all rolling up, it's not like, they're
Yes.
not two separate sheets at this time, everything's still rolling up?
Yes.
Okay,
And you can see all the history in the previous years, FY 10, 11, 12, and 13. And just, for instance, you'll see in the administration and finance, there's nothing in the column other than personnel services and purchase of services. And this gets doubly confusing because when we subtotaled administration and finance last year, it didn't include all the town hall and operating support expenses. But now these are all rolled up into that purchase of services. If you see total administration and finance, this year it's 1,073,000. Last year was only 451. That's because most of that 807 in FY13 is in that 1,073,000 figure.
quick question just up at the top, you've got FY 10 actual, is 11 and 12 actuals,
No,
their budgets?
they are.
Do we have actuals?
Um,
Or
we
is there
have
not- Or is
them.
there not that much of a difference?
There's I don't believe there's very much difference. That's why we didn't change them, but
Okay.
we can change them,
Eventually?
yes.
Okay.
It just will take a little while.
No, as long as we know there's not huge variance as we're comparing things.
No, and there aren't.
Okay.
And the basis for the budgeting was, level funded or level services anyway. Because these don't take into account any fund transfers either.
Right.
So if you had the actual spending, there would be greater anomalies, I think. One interesting thing I wanted to point out, because this was new last year, under the capital improvement projects operating
I was
expense.
gonna ask you about that.
We spent $71,893 of that 182. Actually, it's over it's now in the debt service section, because it's a recurring 5-year debt. So, I had to subtract from that 182, so we didn't give ourselves a $71,000 increase. Follow me?
No, I'm sorry.
Say that
Try,
again.
try us again.
Yeah, if you go back, actually,
We started with 182.5.
right,
And 182.5 is,
What was appropriated for CIP in the operating budget last year?
we took money in the warrant articles and actually raised and appropriated money out of this line item for certain items,
really,
for 5 separate items. And-
Right, we basically moved it from the operating budget to,
to what?
Well,
It-
it's ending up into the debt service, because we took a 5-year note.
as opposed to spending it outright. We're still spending about basically the same amount of money, correct?
Yes,
But instead of, we're not just buying something out, so now it's gotta go into the debt service and going forward.
so last year, we at town meeting, we purchased a radio system, a dump
I remember
truck,
that, yeah.
a phone system.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Actually, there were, I said
Yep.
5
I
items.
remember all of that, but
Three items, and the total principal payment is $70,000 a year for the next 5 years. So we have to account for that. I mean,
okay.
That's why the 182
Yes.
has gone down from 182.5 to 110,607 this year. In the budget.
This is, I see, this is the capital line item we set up.
yes.
Okay,
We set up
All right,
182.5, but
I-
we're still gonna be spending
right,
182.5, but we had to move.
took 70 of it to pay off bonds, yes.
Right.
And the rest of it's available.
Yeah, and a matter of fact,
Right,
if
yes.
you go
I
back
see, yes.
to the debt service in the expense detail, although it's not dollar for dollar, there's a capital equipment principal and capital equipment interest. The capital equipment principal actually is 105. There's some other items in there that we have had previously financed that are not long-term bonds, but they're notes, and they all, but 71,000 of that is those
Is the ones that we did.
3 items that
Yes.
we purchased, authorized purchase last year. And that 71 will stay there for the next 5 years. Actually, it drops off in the final year to 64,000.
It was for 5 years.
So,
Okay, all right.
That fire engine was for how long originally?
oh, the fire engine was 10 years.
Was it 10 years?
Se-
And
That's the $77,000 one.
Right.
Which we still debate every year whether. We
I know.
only have,
That's the one with the ladder,
It's
right?
not
Yeah.
done yet.
we only have 4 more years of that
Oh,
debate.
I thought it was 3, it's
Well,
4. Oh.
Remember that discussion about the ladder to those people that don't have a driveway, you've gotta reach it from the road, and remember that we had that,
Mike, I have a question.
Yes.
On page 1 on the summary, right now on the bottom, we're looking at the revenues of 24.2,
Yep.
expenses of 23.7.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go to the end of the budget after employee benefits on the borrowing page, it says total operating budget of 21. I just want to understand how things are rolling up, if I'm missing something.
What page is the second one? Oh, I see.
Is this as,
That, there's obviously an error there, I'll have to look at it.
I know it's the first pass, it just said, that's just something that jumped out at me, and
Yep,
it's
no.
new sheets, and not expecting for perfection on the first.
No, and I didn't have my,
this doesn't have anything to do with tax recap charges and offsets not being included in the 21? Because there is, that gets really kind of confusing as far as I'm concerned.
Right, and I just want to
There's
make
stuff
sure.
like that that's added after you. This is above and beyond our operating budget. It's all of this
Right,
stuff.
no, right, exactly. That's-
State charges and offsets.
Right, and because then it brings up to 22,302, and then
Right,
there's still
and
a
then there's a 6.
23,782.
Yeah, there's a 6 down here.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, I'll have to,
yeah.
just as far as
Make sure that those roll up right.
they roll
Yeah,
up, but it's, and maybe it's not total operating budget, maybe it is total operating
It's
budget.
total operating budget. It's not
But-
total budget. It's not our total budget. Total. It's yeah. See on the
Just,
next
yeah.
page, it's
well,
total
to-
expenses,
total
which makes
expenses, it's not total, that's probably accurate, it's.
yeah,
total
it is.
Operating, but
Yes,
not expenses.
not expenses. Yeah.
Right, and I just want to make sure, because as we go forward with this, that, and the roll-ups, that we're all talking apples and apples, that's,
That's
Yep,
always confusing.
it gets confusing, right?
Yes. Okay, moving along, on that first page of the expense detail, see under, MVPC assessment, it's a 0. That was moved to the planning board budget.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I don't know why it wasn't there before.
Yeah. Yeah.
They paid it out of their, they made the payment, but we never had the money budgeted in the planning budget, so I moved it. But the planning board doesn't,
You're not happy about that?
they don't know about it.
They do now,
Where is that? I can't find it.
under land use.
Under land use, all the way
It's
down.
under
the
land
bottom.
Oh, yeah, I thought there was a 0 here in this where it used to be. Oh, it is.
It is.
Okay, that's what I was with 0. Okay.
But that's why.
Now it's under land use.
you know,
Okay.
That's why there's a,
There's a 0 there, huh?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
And there was one other, there are 2 other things that got moved around. On the next page, right in the middle, you go down the left-hand side under protective services, sealer
Oh, yeah.
weights and measures.
Oh, yeah.
I moved that to Board of Health. They pay it out of their budget, but it doesn't show up in their budget. So, and it created a whole separate section just for that.
Yeah,
So it more
we
appropriate, I
fix
believe,
that.
more appropriately belongs in the Board of Health. And then, this may be a little controversial. Under undesignated at the bottom of the page,
the streetlights.
I moved them to the Highway Department.
Oh.
What happens is, we get a call from the Highway Department when the lights are broken. So Janet has to call the light fixing department. That doesn't make sense. They're in charge of what goes on in the streets. So I moved it to their budget,
That makes perfect sense, too.
as well as the street lights.
Beautiful.
So that's,
Now Peter knows.
yep,
Excuse me, Mike, going back here where you had this MVPC assessment?
yes.
What is MPV, what does that stand?
Merrimack Valley Planning Commission.
Okay.
Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, we give them a couple of $1,000s a year, and they
Do all kinds of stuff.
they do studies for us and things like that. Reduction of schools requested increase.
That was our 168 we took.
Oh, yes.
Remember last year?
I thought we had a lot of acronyms in the military, but I think,
Oh, yeah.
we got it beat.
Yeah, and the school budget, this is just the figures from last year.
Oh, okay.
Any sense of where Whittier's gonna come in?
I called them and they're like a week away from releasing some information. I think I'll have it by the 9th.
Yeah.
They have a brand-new school business administrator over there, so he's,
They have a new superintendent as well, don't they? They had for a couple of years now.
yeah, Bill Rosa. He's been there for as long as I've been here.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think it was that long. Okay.
Well, it's not. It's 3.5 years.
You're right. It just seems like you've been here a long time.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, we'll let that go.
That could be
Sounds
good.
very good.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't meant negatively.
Of course not.
No.
So that's a quick walkthrough.
We'll take a little bit getting used to, but this is
Yeah.
gonna be great moving forward.
Yeah. I know that one of the things when I'm looking at budgets, one of the things that I like to do is to go out and look at other towns in terms of their per capita costs for all of the different departments. The problem is that it's always at least 2 years behind. And I actually sent an email to DOR, and they told me the problem is that the towns don't give the information. And I wonder if part of it is because nobody's chart of accounts lines up. Is that possible? So that you just, I forget, there's a document that you guys sent to DOR that apparently you don't always send in. It's apparently not a requirement, if I understand it. He told me that I got what it is, but it really, I think looking at per capita expenses, particularly for towns that are close to our size.
Similarly sized.
Yeah,
and
what I do
budget,
is I
yeah.
go through the whole list and I sort out, like 7,500 to 9,500 in terms of population, and then look at where we are in terms of per capita costs for everything. Schools are harder, but because we're a K-12 and most other people are regional. Apparently, the state gives the regions money directly. That doesn't show up in some of those other reports. So it looks like their costs are lower, but they're not.
But Jim, wouldn't it be the income level in those communities and everything?
That's what their formula is based on, is how they get Chapter 70 money and the money that the state sends.
Yeah, but when you're talking about the per capita, wouldn't it be in a wealthier community? where
No, it's
people-
per capita expenses, not per capita income. It's
Okay.
per capita expenses. What the police,
they're
what the per
using.
capita police costs are, the highway department, the finance, all of that stuff. That just seems to me to be a good indicator of where you
Yeah, but
sit.
then you get places like Boxford over here where their police department looks, well, I mean, it's
Actually,
a pretty
they don't-
modern.
They don't spend as much money as we do.
You're kidding me.
I don't think so. I could show you a couple of years past.
And this
No,
there was a-
I would have not guessed that. 'cause
Yeah,
I've seen
they
their-
don't.
I've seen their police building over there and everything, and it's pretty spiffy. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
New cars and all that. I mean, I
No.
would.
I don't think they spend as much money as we do.
Well, there was a grant that was given last year as part of the CICG, and some communities were invited to participate in to do that for using comparative data, because that's one of the big buzzwords right now is performance management and comparative data. And I happened to go to one of these, and it was great on some instances, but it also is a matter of how people give the information, and they were giving it to people working with the Collins Center. Well, there were DPWs. One of the things they were doing DPWs, and they were asking for FTEs, and some of the DPWs across the state thought it meant how many full-time engineers they are. So when you're going and gathering this information, it's a matter of, and there's a lot of holes in it right now of gathering the right information. But that's one of the,
yeah.
and that's
No,
one of
I
the things.
agree.
We went, well, with the thing I've been working on for a couple of years with the CMMS, the Computerized Maintenance Management with Merrimack Valley. One of the reasons we want to do this regionally in Merrimack Valley is because then we are actually collecting all the data the exact same way.
Right.
And then we can start getting comparisons to our communities around, because
Absolutely.
that's been a challenge, and and this group is more than happy to continue doing it. We found out next year, for $30,000 a year, and it's like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's,
It's not, I mean, there's a lot of communities right now that are actually sharing different data, and, you know, but.
that would be
it's-
wonderful. I mean, if everybody's using the state chart of accounts,
Well,
then it's not hard to do that, I would think, because it's a
Uniform
direct
data.
comparison.
It is, but I can tell you right now, I have a lot of differences in my chart of accounts. So right there, it's a matter of how, you know. So that's,
yeah.
so,
Well, okay.
and so overall, but I mean, there is things that are happening out there right now of amongst communities just trying to get the comparative data, because it is important and it is good to see. But like I said, you know, you get people turned in, how many full-time
Yeah.
engineers, and all of a sudden you see the DPW department has one person in it. It's like, So. This looks great, Mike. This is awesome. This is really, really good.
Hopefully it will make things simpler and easier and not more difficult.
Now, on another note, did you bring the, are you done with this portion?
Yeah.
Okay. Another note, did you bring the schedule for the 9th yet, or is that not public information yet because you're still working it out?
No, well, what I shared with you is, you know, that's my recommendation.
Okay.
I didn't bring a copy of it with me, but
I have it right
it's
here.
pretty simple. I mean, everybody wants to be at 9 o'clock,
Yes, they do.
so that's not gonna happen.
Really?
So
Nobody wants to be at 2.
we talked about, well, what I'm proposing is the smaller budgets come in the morning, and we take them alphabetically,
That's
from 9 till noon, break for lunch, and then the larger, the police, fire, administration, and school are in
And
the
highway.
afternoon,
Yeah.
alphabetically.
After our brains are already tapped.
after we're fried.
I think the morning.
We can do it the other way too. It-
Let's get rid of
it's
the
really
smaller
up-
departments
It's
and
really
line
up to you.
I think we might be able to kick right through the smaller departments.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah, I
we
don't
might
think
even
that
be
they're
done
gonna be a
before
big-
noon.
Yeah.
And we should,
We have a long lunch.
well, no, keep on going. I mean, it's a,
Yeah.
but so just so, this is the departments that Mike could give me starting from 9 to noon. It's assessing, Board of Health, Building, Council on Aging, Conservation, Library Planning, Town Clerk, and ZBA. And I agree with you, that's the perfect, fine, fair way. It's alphabetical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the afternoon, admin, highway, fire, police, and school. And school we did, well, schools are not gonna be really doing a big presentation. They're gonna basically be giving us, some very
Yes, we
simple
told
numbers.
them we didn't want a big presentation.
Right,
Yeah.
we had, Jim and I went to their meeting last week. Jim, do you wanna enlighten everyone to what?
Well, we told them essentially what you said, that all we want on the 9th is for them to tell us, based on last year's budget, what their contractual obligations are. And they do have a concern about this special ed, that's additional cost. So we said, fine, those are the two things. Bring those. And the idea was that once we do that, we will take all of this and roll it up, and then we can tell people relatively early in the process, yes, it looks like we have money, or no, we're in trouble, and you can't have as much as you were asking for. So, and at least they will find that out early, rather than in April or something like that, after we wait for everybody, or especially wait for the school system
Right.
when they go through all of their machinations. But
Right, because if it
so
looks
that, and
like-
that,
yeah.
you know, they seem to be okay with that. They told us they would come, and
It's not a big presentation. Then they're gonna
No,
come and
no.
then they'll come and do a full presentation.
yeah,
once they-
later. That's right.
But like, and Jim reminded us of a few years ago, we had 130,000 after you take the revenue, you take off the top, the debt service, all the fixed costs and everything, you know, you've got, and then you take off the level funded budgets, we had 130,000 to split between the whole town. So that's really what we're gonna get to. What is that number that
Right.
is available,
Right, for budget, for
budgets.
additional, for budgets for the next year, that's right.
so.
All right, so you're gonna send us a list of the departments as we're gonna see them?
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't do it because he just did it, and I wanna make sure you guys you're fine with that, alphabetical.
Whatever you guys want.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm here.
That's fine.
I think alphabetical's beautiful, because it's either that
Yeah,
or
there's
pulling
no
a number out of
complaining
a
if it's
hat.
alphabetical, that's right.
Well, they're gonna complain.
Yeah.
We're gonna get complaints, and that's just, and that's just, you can't please everybody. We just, once again, have to
At
make
least
it
they
feel,
know.
everybody feel like they were,
Well,
As long as you have a
Equals
rule that
work.
applies to everyone.
It's fair.
it's fair, right,
right.
so. Great. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Let's see, next on the agenda item, all right, the upcoming budget meeting schedule is, Mike has done this in a nice bright color yellow. I like that. Is that yours or Janet's idea?
Oh, Janet's in charge of colors.
Thank you, Janet.
No, she doesn't watch,
So-
I'm sure.
So here's our schedule, which is great. If you go down to, well, CIP, Mike is working through a CIP with some quorum challenges right now. But if you go down to a couple of things, the 9th of March, we have scheduled, but it also depends on how everything else goes.
Liberation.
Deliberations, if we find that we're having a really
If
big,
we need to make some decisions,
if we
you know,
need to make
have
some really, they may not, I mean, maybe simple.
I mean,
saying,
everything's
this
gonna be
is-
lovely, huh? You think?
So, the,
Make a wish.
on the 20th, right now, we've given, the schools the choice of either the March 9th, which is a Saturday, which I'm not sure if they're that keen on, or the 20th to do their presentation. Now, the 20th is definitely gonna be necessary, so you can cross that out, because that's when CPC is coming to do their presentation. They're voting the night before on the 19th, not voting. No, they are, they're voting on the 19th of what articles they're putting forward, and then they're having their public hearing afterwards, but they will be coming on the 20th,
Okay.
so. I think that's really the only change, right, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
So potentially on the 9th, we got schools, right?
Potentially, schools will either be the 9th or the 20th, they will let us know. Their their public hearing is right now anticipated to be the 28th, I believe,
Of February.
of
yeah.
February,
Yeah.
so.
This doesn't necessarily affect the finance committee, but we may be having, I was talking with Jan McGrain today, we may be having the senatorial preliminary votes, the primary
election.
Oh, yeah, June.
June.
April.
April 30th, they're talking,
In
aren't
April
they?
now?
I thought it
And
was
they're-
June.
No, the
It's-
primaries were
that's-
April 30th.
Yeah, that's the final vote.
The June.
General election in
Yeah.
June 30th, I think, or
No, it's
25th.
like the
25th, I think.
twenty-fifth.
And they're, the,
So she's gonna need money out of the
Yeah.
reserve fund for that.
Yeah.
well,
I would,
the-
two of them, yeah.
it was deemed an unfunded mandate last year by the auditor's office, state auditor's office, so that they're probably gonna have to come up with the money. We might not get it in this fiscal year, but would- they should be paying for it. But here's the problem, not a problem, but there's a bill in the legislature, it's being introduced, that will allow the towns to move their town election. We may be having our town election before town meeting, is what I'm getting at. We may be voting in April for,
They may allow you to do them concurrently.
yeah,
We can do that even though it's a bylaw.
yes, not.
The state law overrides bylaws.
Notwithstanding bylaws and ordinances, we could, if the way the bill is written right now, with the selectmen and the town clerk get together and
Oh, that would be
decide.
good.
I mean, I guess the only thing is, you don't anticipate anything that needs to go to a vote.
Yeah, there's no.
No,
Yeah.
You're saying yes.
Yes, I am. Results of the feasibility study
Selectman
for the high school.
Surface has joined us. The what?
Results of the feasibility for the high school and the funding of those potential repairs could be part of the May vote.
there could be a warrant article on.
Could be. Could be a ballot question too.
That's what I mean, it would have to be a ballot
Well,
question.
Depends how we fund it, depends what those are, what those numbers are, we don't know that yet.
So you think there'd be a debt exclusion, David?
Could possibly be, yes. I would just hold that in reserve right now. Could
Well,
be.
we could,
Unless
well, we
it's
still
next-
have,
unless I'm off a
we
year.
we could do it in June.
We'll have to see what the timeline is on that feasibility study, which got approved today by the state,
Alright.
MSBA.
So I guess that would be the next question, yeah, June,
We could have a
vote-
special town meeting in June with the general election, because that's
a special,
a special, yeah, because that's what we did with the school vote. We had it on the national ballot.
Unless it's next year,
This-
I
Right.
could have this mixed up, it could be next
Okay.
year.
but we could vote at a town meeting and then have the election in June.
Yes.
We could still do that, okay. So these are options, and when does that need to be
Oh, I see,
decided?
yeah, that's right, you could do it at the June, you could put it on the June ballot.
If the feasibility
If
study is
it's
done,
necessary, yeah, yeah.
That's gonna be the case.
So
That's
as
right,
as
that's
opposed to
true.
three, it would still be two, as opposed to
Right.
3 elections, it would be 2. So we'd have to fund
Possibly.
one more election.
Right.
Well, we may get away with that, piggybacking with the state elections and not having to have our own.
Right,
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
but as opposed to
yeah.
the April 30th,
Still
the
have to have a
May,
primary.
and,
Right.
in the June.
and the June. Then
So
it'll
April,
run
May, and June, you could have, in theory, you may be able to have April and June.
April and
Could
June,
have 3 elections with it too.
yeah,
Right.
okay. Okay. All right, any other questions on the schedule? Okay, next on business is tasks and goals of committee members. I don't know, I know we had talked about this last year, and I don't know if Andy had done anything with you guys, if we were doing tasks and goals, or if that's anything that,
We have not done anything on it.
okay, all right, then we'll move along and we'll bring it up at another time. I guess if anybody has any particular things any pet projects that they think that they wanna take on and do, cause I know Andy was really into the revolving fund, and Mike is, and the departments have pulled together to get all that information for us now. Nothing, okay?
Well, no, what about the maintenance? I mean, I would like to stay involved with that. That would probably go beyond this town meeting, I would think, what we're doing with maintenance. I would think it's a longer term.
Yeah, we talked about that. It'd
Yeah.
be nice to get it done in time.
Oh, it would be nice to get it done, but, you
I
know,
received-
whatever else is going on with that.
Well, I received the proposal from the consultant that we met with.
Okay.
I frankly, I got it, he sent it to me Sunday, I still haven't opened it up yet, but I plan to do that first thing tomorrow morning. But as you know, the committee that we have been meeting with on this joint maintenance, there's Jim's the FinCom rep, we have a school committee rep, a selectman rep, and then myself and Carol are the other members.
And the school business. Joan,
Yeah,
is
Joan
there
Laporta.
frequently at the meeting, yeah.
So, we kind of, so we kind of hit a wall. We've been putting all sorts of ideas up on the bulletin, you know, on the Post-it notes, and somebody suggested, well, why don't we get a consultant to help us, because we really haven't done this ourselves before. And so we met with a consultant, who's done this in multiple communities around the state. I think the committee members feel that this would be the way to go, but it's gonna cost about $5,000 to do it. So, we'd either have to find the $5,000 in, you know, both the town and school budgets, which, you know, it's a possibility.
What about a warrant article through free cash?
I I think he's trying to get this done.
Yeah,
We're trying to get it done before that, yeah.
worst case scenario, yeah, we could
Yeah.
do that, but we'd like to have it in place, before that,
And an adjusted budget for that.
possibly.
It seems like a tall order between now and getting that all resolved between now and March. Just seems.
I think there are things that could be done, I think, by May, right?
Right, we just have to get the financing done by May, and then we have until July 1st to actually get the plan in place.
Okay.
Everything
why don't
does-
you-
Everything doesn't have to take, you know, eons to accomplish.
Do you, is the proposal that you received from the consultant, is that a timeline too, do you know? Did you ask him for that?
Well, he did say he's retired and he's working on several other projects at the time. You know, he could probably put in about 10 hours a week.
He said, yeah, he gave us an amount of time it would take, and it was like 40 or 50 hours. And he wouldn't be able to start for a couple of weeks because he's got some things he's clearing up, so.
I guess, can you, once you open up the proposal, can you just send a quick summary? That way we just have an idea what he's looking at, just so,
Okay.
okay. Cool, anything else? Any other specialty items? Okay, next item is a school building committee member. They need a FinCom representative. And Michelle Smith gave me, this is the list of upcoming meetings that they're expecting and when, what that meeting entails. So it's basically, it's twice a month, it looks like. So is there anybody, because I know Nazarene, you had agreed to go on for just such a period of time. And so the first question would be, are you still interested in being on it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that I'm not interested, I don't have the time to do it.
No, that's why I asked Michelle to give us this whole thing, so we could, so it wasn't
Their
just kind of
meetings-
open-ended saying, oh,
The
you're,
meetings are very long. And, you know, for good reason,
Mhm.
but I just don't have the
They're
time.
starting to tone down a little bit now because we're getting.
We've
through
hashed
all
out
the
the
phases.
more, the bigger stuff.
Some of them will last till 10:30 at night, but
Right.
our last meeting lasted an hour and a half, so it wasn't too bad.
okay, is
When do
anybody,
they meet? Twice a month?
Yeah.
this is what they're looking at, February, these are the actual meeting dates she put down. February 5th, the 19th, what's a DD document?
Design development document
Okay.
needs to be done, and it should tone down from there. It shouldn't be as bad,
Okay.
in terms of time commitment.
No, I can't.
And what exactly is this member supposed to do? I mean, what is
Part
the,
of the discussion, be part of the.
Act as a liaison
Process.
also.
Yeah.
And act as a liaison, like process what goes on there to help FinCom better understand so that we don't necessarily have to make a decision on the fly, but could be more informed as to what happens there.
okay.
It shouldn't be that difficult.
Well, it's a time, yeah.
It's a time
Yeah.
commitment.
Well, I mean, if it's a 2-hour meeting and you give us an hour of your time, then that, if that's the commitment, it's better than 0 time. So, I'll just throw that out.
And you really need all these meetings?
Yeah, well, it's a very large project, yes.
Yeah, it is. It is a large project.
And there are some people that like to talk and like themselves be heard for hours, and that's a painful.
Do I detect sarcasm there?
That's when the chair is supposed to keep things rolling. Such as I do watch the clock, we have 11 minutes to be done. And I'm right on schedule.
It's getting more efficient.
It is.
Don't
Okay.
be afraid, Nazarene.
Okay, well, we don't have any takers at this point. We also are, we're missing a member tonight, and we have 2 openings. We have someone who's ready to go on the board, but we just need to take care of some other paperwork right now, which Mike and I are trying to work on. And then we will have, so that person's ready to get sworn in, so I will send an email to him it's Ed Doby who will be joining us. He was on CIP for a while, so I'll see if there's something he might be interested in being on also. I can't do it, I don't have the time. Just don't have the time commitment.
Yeah,
I
I-
actually have this job I have to go to every once in a while at night. Selectmen require me to go to these meetings, so.
My heart wouldn't take it, so
That's probably true. Yes.
No comment from the Peter.
We just let that one go.
So, anyway, okay, so we'll have to move on from that one and see what we can do. And I guess whoever this school building committee member is, does it have to be just one person, or can people rotate and take turns? I guess that would be the other question. You want just one?
Well, the other question, the question I had, does it have to be a FinCom member, or can it be an appointment from FinCom?
It's your committee, I don't know.
It's not my committee, it's Michelle and it's, Ellie's
But-
committee. I'm
But,
just-
but I thought the Board of Selectmen put this together.
Well, yeah, I understand that,
Well,
but
Yeah.
well, not to put an anchor around our necks, I mean, I do think that having someone from FinCom on there that may have a little bit of financial, control on some things, I mean, is not a bad idea, actually, because all of these things have consequences and then the money, and that's kind of what we deal with. So I think that's probably a good idea, it's just, drawing straws.
The
Who would wanna do
MSBA
that?
recommends which representatives should be on the committee, and it
FinCom is one of them.
should be a finance committee member.
and keep in mind, Mike's there as the finance director. I'm there as the chairman, and I'm on the finance subgroup, watching every single dollar too. But it would be good to have somebody from FinCom to report back to FinCom. But in the interim, Mike can certainly be the liaison to the FinCom as finance director. So, but it would be great to have. Again, it would be great to have somebody there.
The biggest problem, I mean, I can
Not
liaison,
voting.
I can't vote.
Right.
And
Oh, the FinCom member would vote?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
Oh,
voting
okay.
member,
Oh.
and what's really important is we need a quorum so we can pay our bills.
Oh, God.
Uh,
And you're not part of that either?
I can't vote.
Well, I mean, if it just, then you need somebody to be there for these long meetings if the votes take place at the end of the night.
Well, no, they take place in the beginning.
Beginning.
Yeah.
So that was my point, is that if you can only give us an hour of your time, if that's all you can do, then just let the chair know, hey, tonight I can only stay till 8:30 and I'm out, so then let them work accordingly. It's better than no representation at all.
And
What
when
time
do
did-
they meet again?
We've been meeting mostly Tuesday nights, there's a schedule there.
Like
You know,
six,
it's
seven?
been- they're spread out-
7:30.
Yeah, they're spread out.
7:30?
Yeah.
See,
Why
like,
7:30?
10.
Because that's when people can mostly get there. I've pushed to make them go back to 7, but I haven't been that successful.
Several people that are coming from Boston
Work,
and
yeah.
elsewhere.
But I think it's, how many, you have the schedule there, Sandy, I don't have it in front of me. It's every other week, right?
Yeah, February.
It's every
4th.
other week, yeah.
March is only
twice
one.
a month.
Yeah, it's not really that,
Except in March, it's
There's only one.
once.
Yeah.
yeah, so it's only
Right,
3
but
more meetings through
In
March.
August, it's once. I'll think about it myself too. I'll
There you
think
go,
about it.
Chuck.
I said I would
Why don't we,
think about it.
why don't we think about it? I mean, the,
Because
The
most of
worst
these
thing
days
to
I'm-
say
I'm
on this
here.
committee is
I mean,
I'll
I've got
think
some
about
things
it.
up
I thought you were leaving for a while.
But I'm coming back. I wouldn't leave Massachusetts for anything.
Especially now that I'm back on.
That's right.
Yeah.
How am I gonna learn anything if I'm never here?
You can remotely participate too.
Well, that was gonna be one of the things I was
But you
gonna
still
ask.
have to have a quorum.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes you don't, is that right?
Yeah.
To pay
Right,
bills,
as long as you
yeah.
let the chair know ahead of time, and they give you permission to.
Yeah.
You can make history in Georgetown because no one's
Because
done
I
it yet.
remotely out in Arizona, I got elected to the board of directors out there on a project, and I vote remotely, and I'm queued in, and I
Yeah.
listen to all the stuff.
As long as there's a quorum, you can participate remotely, whether it be by phone. And we were just talking that instead of using minutes, you can do you don't have to do video. You can actually use Skype, just Skype audio. So that way you're not using any minutes on your phones or anything like that. And I think there's Facebook has a
YouTube, there's a thing off of
I have
YouTube.
my iPad here, so-
Any more.
Yeah, your
Right,
iPad,
yeah.
you can do it on
Any
your
more
iPad.
long distance is virtually free. I mean.
That's
Consider it then. I can do it from home.
Wow,
I
look
just,
at that. Nazrene's gonna consider it.
No. Oh,
Well, I mean, it would be great if that's something,
yeah, I mean,
Well, what,
and if you knew the agendas ahead of time and you could decide whether you could,
right, that's also helpful. You know,
There's a
just
post
what-
it
There might be a possibility that you could get a couple people on FinCom that could split between the two of them.
can we do that?
No, because you have to be
No, I
sworn in.
can't be sworn in because you have to
It
vote.
has to be one person.
one-
oh.
Okay, well, why don't you
Well,
both check your schedules?
Yeah,
And see
I'll give it some thought, seriously.
Yeah, okay, and then,
Because I seriously thought about it once before when we were in the
Mhm.
heat of battle on some of these things, and, you know.
Take a couple of Valium before you go to the meeting.
Well, I'm very mellow, Jim. Not a
It
problem.
was just a thought.
I didn't
Okay.
say anything.
great, all right, so you guys can get back to me. Are you here on the 9th or not? Or you?
No, I actually leave Monday the 4th. I can listen in, but and everything. I'd be more than glad to do that.
Okay, yeah, that'll
Yeah,
be,
I'll be more than happy to.
because even if we
Awesome.
don't have a, Mike, if there's not voting or anything, can he listen in on the 9th?
Sure.
With, and participate in asking questions, but there's no deliberation, so is that
Calling
breaking?
person can't be the quorum, can't make the.
No, I understand,
you have
but,
to have a
but
quorum.
even if we're not voting and
Not
say we
voting on
don't,
anything, sure.
it doesn't matter, even if we don't have a quorum, they can participate in the meeting and calling in, cause we're not voting, right? Yeah,
We're not
so
deliberating or
We're not
voting,
deliberating
we're
or
getting
voting, we're just
information.
listening, so that way it'd mostly be just if you had any questions. But here's another question, have they worked out being able to get this webcast yet, the meeting's webcast?
Yeah, they stream them live.
Yeah,
They do stream online?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's that YouTube related thing.
okay,
I forget what it's called.
right, so if you
You,
can
you,
actually
you
watch
can see it on your, right, you can use your
I've got
iPad.
my computer with me out there.
Yeah,
We-
your
we-
iPad.
You
We,
can watch-
we have internet.
We have ways, really, you do?
Yeah, we do.
Wow.
Okay, well, that'll be good, that way, that'll be
Now we're getting
good,
to
okay.
Yeah.
Let's go down, personnel board member, what, Robin, were you appointed, or,
I honestly have no idea anymore.
I can't remember where we are on that.
Um,
Or do you wanna save this for another day discussion if there's,
No, I think we need to rectify the situation. We did talk with the chairman at the board meeting on Monday. He would like to see if we can reform the appointment as opposed to do a reappointment.
that's why, I just had it on here for
Yeah.
discussion, I don't have, there's nothing, we don't have to take any action, I just know,
We formally requested FinCom, I don't know if you have to have a quorum at that meeting, but to be at our next selectmen meeting so that we can appoint Robin.
Well-
Although can they
Wait,
vote here? and
I
then-
think, yeah, they need if
Joining
if
FinCom?
you vote tonight
Select-
to have her
No, wait.
as the personnel board member representing the finance committee, then somebody from the finance committee needs to attend the selectmen's meeting to cast the vote.
Right.
Because there's 3 votes that need to be cast.
Most archaic voting.
The finance committee, selectmen, and moderator. They all get a vote to appoint all 5 of the members.
so are you still willing to be on personnel board? Because I don't know your schedule, cause personnel board's still meeting during the day.
No, we've been meeting like at 5:30.
It's important that we go with Robin and reaffirm the vote or
So what, do you want me to take, do you want us to take action today?
Yes.
Or what would you like
Take a
us to,
vote
what
tonight?
would you like us to do?
To nominate and vote Robin on as the
Personnel.
FinCom, as the FinCom rep to the Personnel Committee.
Could I have a nomination for Robin to the personnel board?
So moved.
Second.
Robin, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Okay. I'd like to take a vote to recommend approval for Robin to be appointed to the personnel board. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
You should have said no.
Snicker, snicker.
Okay, so you need someone to be there Monday night?
yes.
Next Monday.
Next Monday night. Yep.
Next Monday night, the 4th.
Uh,
Not this
18. No, the 11th.
The 11th.
11.
Is that the 11th? Yeah.
Yeah.
To do what?
Whatever.
So,
Just to cast
it-
a vote.
So we'll decide on the 9th who can go on the 11th.
yeah,
Oh, fine, okay,
okay.
yeah, that works.
So the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 9th. I
On
mean,
the 11th.
The 11th. Okay, so we can decide that, look at everybody's schedule on the 9th when we're together and figure out who can go on the 11th. CIP appointment. Is Andy still appointed or is
Well, he hasn't gotten sworn in,
for CIP?
not that I'm aware of.
Has he been appointed though?
Who would appoint him, the selectmen? Or do we vote on, same
we
thing?
No, we do.
Same deal, he's the finance committee rep.
So we have to appoint him?
We're not appointing anybody. If he hasn't been appointed, we're not appointing anybody at this point in time.
especially on.
Because we have a problem, we have a challenge right now if someone gets appointed and
I
they don't
don't
wanna
think
serve.
he was.
Yeah, you
Oh,
have
we
to
have to
res-
make sure that they want to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think he was appointed, only because we never thought he was gonna be back on the Finance and Advisory Board,
When did his term get up?
June.
This past June? So this board did not vote since June to put him back on CIP.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's fine. So I need to get with Andy to find out if he still wants to be on the CIP. Is the FinCom, and that position has to be a member of FinCom?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so I will get with him on that. We already went over the new board member, Ed Doby. I'm gonna get him a copy of this meeting. He was unable to join us. He should be able to join us on the 9th, so be able to listen to the presentation. And then after that, we will have another opening on the Finance and Advisory Board. Okay, any other business?
Yes, Madam Chairman, if I might.
After we go around the board.
Okay.
Okay.
There's another appointment that we're missing.
You're missing another appointment?
Yes, that needs a FinCom, either a FinCom member or an appointee from the FinCom
For,
Synthetic Turf Field Committee.
we did that.
What is it?
The football field.
Why are you laughing? That's
turf
important.
committee.
it's me, isn't it?
It's,
Yeah, it is you.
Oh,
We
oh,
already
me.
did that.
Who is it?
Me.
Her.
Sandy, look at the
You
smile on
did,
her
right?
face.
Are you're making
She's
that,
the-
because we have to appoint you then.
She's
Yes.
appointed.
And I don't
Yeah,
like
we-
synthetic turf fields,
Oh,
so.
whatever, I don't, I don't care what your preference is.
Yeah, we recommend,
Whether you like natural turf or astroturf, I can care less. All I know is you're on the committee, so Mike, we have to just put that on the, get you appointed. Okay.
Only in Massachusetts could you have that, for synthetic
Oh
turf.
my God.
Are
Okay.
you double checking the minutes to make sure we took that vote? I said I would do it, but now I'm wondering, did we even actually take a vote that last meeting?
Do you wanna take a vote now, just in case? Is that,
You
do that?
can't take, can you? Can you take a vote if you're ready to take it on?
I don't know. That's
We're FinCom, we can.
You can do anything we want.
anything, I think.
I'll just
That
give
was
Robin
Mr.
a second to,
Okay.
yeah, we didn't actually vote on it, we just said that
Oh.
you agreed that you would do it.
okay.
Oh.
Same thing.
May I have a vote to recommend approval for Sandy Garrity going on the synthetic turf field committee?
So moved.
second.
Jeez.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are you on that committee, David?
No.
Too bad.
He wants real grass.
It's one of the only committees I'm not on.
It's looking like that, isn't it?
Okay, board members, any other business from any other board members? Anybody wants to bring up?
Hearing none, I move we adjourn.
You're getting in before the peanut gallery decides to send some more.
No, is that it?
No, I
that's
thought
fine.
he-
He already,
Do you have
he
anything
snuck
else
his
for us?
thing in there.
I'm good.
Okay. All right,
So moved. He said motion to adjourn, so moved. I
all
thought.
those in favor?
Aye, Captain.
Good night, thank you for
we'll
joining
send a
us. And
second.
those of you at home, we will be broadcasting live here on February 9th for our budget presentations from 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. And you can come down and join us during the day or just watch at home in your own enjoyment if it's a cold day in front of a nice fire. But thank you very much, good night.
Sandy, so